All right, what's up, guys? We have another Cornerstone pedal. It is the Antique, which this one in particular is sick because you can kind of hand pick the visuals, assuming you order off of his store, which I would encourage because you can design it to look how you want, which I have really never seen something, like with that kind of customizability. But overall, I mean, I chose a black bass, a white faceplate, and dude, I was so tempted to go with the tortoise top and then like a white bass, make it look like my Jazz Master or something. But while it was so tempting, I went ahead and just went with something real classy, real sleek. And if you can really see too, let me try to get some light on it. You can kind of see this really cool line pattern going on in there. It's really hard for me to get the right angle on it. But if you can see it, let me know in the comments. Wow, that was my first attempt at doing that. So anyways, their visuals are sick. I love it. I think it just looks like suit and tie. I think it's awesome. There's a couple of things that would be worth noting to dive into as well in the manual here. So I got it. The Antique V3, a refined overdrive pedal blending vintage tones with modern technology inspired by the classic Ibanez Tube Screamer. The Antique V3 delivers a rich, dynamic overdrive with exquisite Italian style. The Antique V3 introduces hot mode, adding gain and volume boosts before and after the core effect. This feature transforms the pedal into a versatile two-channel overdrive. Intuitive yet full of possibilities, the V3 invites you to explore a world of tonal creativity. I think, yet again, it's really great for, like, let's say you're trying to even build a smaller board and you need a pedal to do a few things for you in one small enclosure. This and the Nero are going to do that for you, a variety of modes within one small enclosure. And that's super valuable. A lot of versatility in one pedal. This I'm really excited about because it has a tone and presence knob too. That's really worth noting. It also has the compressor toggle switch, which is cool. I'm curious like what we can draw out of that. But having tone and presence is valuable because tone alone is only going to get you so far on most traditional tone knobs from what I've experienced, but having the presence knob allows you to finer tune the air, and I found value in that. I messed with it a little bit. It helped me. So I was able to get exactly the kind of top end character I wanted with that. After that, I mean, it just sounds good. It is a Tube Screamer-esque pedal, but I've played with a few Tube Screamers and I didn't bond with them probably because of the EQ. So because this is much more flexible, I liked it a lot and I did bond with it, and I'm excited to try to find ways to use it. Similar to the Nero, I'm probably going to use multiple guitars, at least to throw in some single coils in the mix just to like really see what that feels and sounds like to get the full experience. It'll probably be my Portlander, Tele, and Danelectro Baritone. Also, wanted to pop in and let you know that me and David Hislop with Tone Factor have a tone course that right now is running a summer sale at 50% off, which is a huge deal. And we have about 30 hours of material in there where we talked about everything from top to bottom: guitars, pedal boards, and amps, how to dial amps. I think we both hit about roughly 6-7 amps each, different amps, and how we would approach that. And yes, that knowledge does apply to modelers as well. If anything, it is actually pivotal to your knowledge with modelers, because if you know how to dial an amp and you know what to listen for, you know what you need to make that modeler sound like. And if you find yourself at any point within this video just wondering, man, how does that chord tone sound like that? This would be a perfect way to find out. So check out in the description section, or I'll probably put a card and it'll tell you where to find the tone course. Go check it out. At least watch the video. All right, so we have the Antique set up here in front of us now, and the light in the middle, which is their logo, is so cool. That is when you know if it's on or off. And then with the hot mode here, it turns red when you press it. Now, it's interesting. So the way this is set up is this will just turn hot mode on and off, which is indicated by the red light. And then if you press on the normal side, it'll switch back over to white. And then if you press it again, it turns it off. So basically like on, off, and then if one is on and you click the other, it will just swap between them. So very cool way to kind of make it more of a seamless and easy experience for cycling between the modes. Mine, sorry, is a little wobbly. It's like sitting on a cable. And so I'll have to do this better next time, but basically, yeah, it's going to wobble a little bit when I press buttons, but I don't know what the settings are on. We'll try it out. I remember I messed with it briefly whenever I had it on my board on Tonexes, and so I think I set some of the tone knobs and stuff to kind of fit that. So we'll see if that translates or not, but in general, I mean, this is going to be cool. I'm going to start first with my Portlander that has PAFs, humbuckers in them, Lindy Fralin modern PAFs. Next, I'll jump over to my Telecaster with some Lambertone single coil blondies, and then after that, we'll kind of check it out on a Danelectro Baritone. First, here's the clean tone. And here's the antique. So I'm not sure how much you can see this. We got gain here. We have presence, tone, and volume. And then these are for the hot mode, and it's another volume, another gain, just kind of like right underneath each one to set that secondary setting. We also have a comp switch toggle here. But anyways, I'm bringing the gain down a bit. I'm going to see how much this thing can clean up here. Volume's pretty high. So this is presence at 0. Tone is maxed out here. Let's see how warm it can get really fast. And then let's 0 out tone and max out presence. Very interesting alternate experience. Okay, let's bring that back down, bring tone back up. Let's start at like noon here. There's a great grind to it that I really like. I mean, it's very mid-rangey. It's doing the tube screamer thing, which is really cool. Since my tone knob is really high, it's making it a little more high midi rather than the kind of warmer traditional tube screamer thing. But that's just my personal preference at the end of the day, I think, where I'm kind of curious to see how much air I can get out of it. It's really cool how they all interact together between tone and presence. You can kind of really finitely get the experience you want, kind of like I was saying. And that's just going to vary, I think, depending on like what your wet effects are doing and how they react to it. Like, you know, warm might not seem appealing to me with dry and like no effects, but maybe with effects on, maybe it'll actually give me some control that I need. having the effects on was very enlightening. Like, you know, the warmer tone to me just kind of made it sound a little funny. But then when I opened it up just a smidge more, I mean, literally so much happens in this last little corridor here. And then even with presence, the way they interact together, like I'm saying, is giving me just such a wildly different experience. Like for some things rhythmically, I liked the cut of the maxed out tone, but then like maybe for like slightly cleaner stuff or something like, it was maybe like a little too pokey or something, but that's just me kind of fine tuning what I like out of it. Let's go ahead and throw on the compressor here and see what that's doing. We'll just turn wet effects off now. I think you could probably tell based on my playing there, I enjoyed the no comp more, but I respect that it's there if you gain it up and it tightens the signal, just like the Nero. It kind of gives you a little bit more of a like control over when the gain is higher. It's not so wall of soundy. It tightens it up, and that's a really useful feature to have. Let's just go ahead and max out that gain. This is actually a useful time to try out the hop mode. So let's just minimize the gain now and max out the gain on the red side, and we'll try swapping it over. Let's do the volume the same at basically max. So good reminder that, once again, just pressing this side just turns hop mode off. And so to go back over, you press the other side. That's a really good clean tone. Let me just make this higher gain a little more practical and just make it a smaller jump. I see. So hop mode does in fact, even at minimum gain, have a slightly different character to it. It's a slightly grittier, Velcro-y sort of texture, which was really cool. So here's both of them at minimum gain and max volume. So even with the gain raised a little bit on the white side, it's still not quite the same as minimum hot gain side, which is cool. Once again, just different characters even. So let's throw some effects on and hear that. I'm going to throw in a widening effect from the SCF real quick. Now, all of this sounds really good by itself. Let's try throwing on like the exotic super clean just to kind of boost it after the pedal and just see what it sounds like pushing into the amps a little harder. And boost back off. Back on. And then hot mode with boost. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of variety there. I kind of love it with the gain up just a little bit, but let me bring it back down to minimum gain, go back to the normal channel, and then just kind of swap back and forth between those. Sweet. There toward the end, you obviously saw me kind of pull that tone knob back a little bit. I think whenever I got to that lead stuff on the hot side, it was just a little bit like thin sounding because of how much treble I was boosting. So when I brought it back down and warmed it up, it nestled it a little bit. That was pretty sweet. And so it's just, it can sound fat. It can sound articulate and, almost not clean. I wouldn't say that this thing necessarily gets super clean, but that's not the goal of this kind of drive anyways. But I was able to get a nice articulation from it though. With that tone knob, higher gain, lower, stuff like that. So I can hit a huge variety here with this pedal, I feel like. Let me grab the Tele now, and we'll see what that sounds like on singles. All right, here is it just with Tele clean. And then with the antique. think I take back what I said about it not being able to clean up. I think I underestimated the volume knob here. I think with it maxed out, it's still doing a lot of the things that I want, but it's not dropping in nearly as much volume as I expected whenever I pull it back with the gain at minimum. And with the pedal back off. And back on. Yeah, it's cool. Like, so I've just been messing around with volume and the variety of tones that can happen and clean sculpting. I know that's not necessarily the goal of the Antique, but I am pleased that it can like that. That's really cool. That's not traditional, Tube Screamer style stuff, but yeah, I like to know that it can like that. Let's kind of bring that gain back up. Let's bring that volume back up and mess around with that for like rhythmic purposes. I mean, I could kind of keep on tinkering. It just seems like there's ways that you can make it a warmer, more tube screamery, kind of good for higher rhythmic stuff, or you can make an articulate sort of cleaner machine. So very cool, great variety there. Let me grab the baritone to finish. All right, here is the baritone clean. And here's the antique. I do really like it when the presence is down on this kind of brighter guitar. It felt like it made it fatter in a way. Like the low end response seems a little bit bigger on my guitar now. But I don't want to warm it up too much. So let's maybe add a little bit more gain. Let's add some effects now. I love it. It sounds amazing. Sounds huge. Let's try the hot mode. We'll turn effects off for a sec. And with the pedal off, back on. Well, what a variety of tones. It definitely feels a little more versatile with the like low output lipstick tube pickups. It's not breaking it up as quickly. And so, yeah, I have a ton of variety of how I can dial this thing. So hopefully you found some inspiration in there. I sure did. I think that there is a multitude of uses for it. But once again, in Cornerstone fashion, we have a really cool availability to swap over to 2 different modes. And although I have my switcher here, you know, I wouldn't normally on actual pedals be swapping styles, but since it's so accessible and sounds so good to use a variety of tones, you know, like the hot mode and the kind of extra crunch it adds in size and all the things, I would probably find myself actually using that in a set, although I have my switcher for other drives. It just brings so much more versatility in one small enclosure. So a huge win of a pedal, and I feel like I didn't even do it justice, you know, fully navigating what can be done, because we didn't play too much with the compressor. And I think, you know, there's still so many different tones you can run into with the presence, but you know, there's only so much time we have. And I think that I just want to showcase, and for myself, just find out, what does the gain sound like? What does the volume sound like? Can it do the things I like for it to do? And I feel like it really can. So awesome pedal.